Hi everyone, I'm Shelly from There's No Place Like Home at redheadmom8.wordpress.com. A few days ago, New York State removed vaccine exemptions for children who attend school. So what this means is that there are thousands of parents who are scrambling right now trying to figure out what they are going to do with their children for an education because they will not vaccinate their kids in order for them to attend school. So what is happening is a lot of them are turning to homeschooling, and I'm seeing that they are really, really nervous. They are really, really freaked out, and they are really, really unsure of their abilities in how to homeschool, and they almost feel like they're being forced into this. So today, that's what I want to talk to you about, when circumstances force you to homeschool. Now, before I get started into this entire video, I just wanted to let you know that my entire video is not going to be about the vaccine mandate situation going on in New York State. That was simply the catalyst for me wanting to do this video. I have been wanting to do something along these lines for quite a while now, and now with this happening and with so many people coming out who live in New York saying, that's it, I can't put my kids in school anymore, I'm going to need to homeschool them, and they are feeling completely lost, they're feeling completely unsure of themselves, and they're honestly feeling like they don't even really want to do this in the first place. Now, one thing that I do want to point out before I get into this, for those parents who are choosing to homeschool their children in New York or in other places because of the vaccine issue, I just want to encourage you in this one way. Do you really want to send your kids to a public school institution that is run by a government who wants to mandate medical procedures on you or your children? So that is one encouragement that I have for a lot of people, because I know that they're all saying that they wish that this would just be straightened out and that their kids would be able to go to school. But honestly, this is what we're looking at right now. We're looking at a government that does want to start mandating what medical procedures are done on its citizens. And so that's really something you might want to think about, is, do I want my kids educated by an entity like that? But anyway, the reason that I decided to do this video, other than the vaccine mandates, is that there are so many other reasons that parents are finding themselves in the predicament where they feel like they have to homeschool because they have no other choice. And some of those reasons might be bullying. Some of them might be other medical issues where their child might have a disease or might have something wrong with them so that they are missing a lot of school, so that it ends up that, yeah, they do end up homeschooling their kids because their child is just missing so much school. There are often academic reasons, and a lot of kids who have learning differences. Their parents are feeling like their schools are just not meeting their kids' needs, and they're feeling, that they're at this point where they have to do something, and very often that do something is homeschooling. There's also school violence that's happening. There's a lack of faith in school faculty. We have all of these relationships between teachers and students. It seems like more and more are coming out of the woodwork every single day, of teachers having relationships with their students, and parents are waking up to this and they're saying, you know what, this isn't okay. And also, even issues like food allergies can very often make a parent anxious enough that they would not want to place their child in a setting that they're really not in control of what is around their kids. So that's really why I came up with this video today, because I'm finding that a lot of parents who have any of these reasons going on in their lives right now with their children, they know that homeschooling is probably a good choice for their situation, and they know that in the end homeschooling might be their only resort, a last resort. And as I mentioned in the title, it's almost like they're being forced into the situation. But I just wanted to point out to those of you who feel that you can't do it for various reasons that you can. So this video is really going to be, it's going to be a bit of encouragement, but it's going to be a bit of exhortation too. Because what I am seeing in the parents of these kids who are needing to be homeschooled for various reasons now, a lot of parents are really going back and forth. They're hemming and hawing over the entire issue, and they are coming up with all sorts of excuses of why they can't homeschool their children, despite the fact that it is pretty much a given that this is the only way that it can be done. And very often this is the best thing for their child. So let's just go over some of the reasons that a lot of parents think that they can't homeschool. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about why you actually probably can homeschool and you just think that you can. So the first reason is financial reasons. That is the biggest reason that I see going around. That is the one that I see most often. I keep seeing of, parents, they need 2 full-time incomes to keep up their lifestyle. They can't afford to have one parent at home. And there are different ways that you can look at this. First of all, I'm going to look at this into understanding the difference between wants and needs. We have, we live in a society that really can't tell the difference between wants and needs anymore. So very often, families might think that they need vacations, or they need this bigger house, or they need this second car, or they need these car payments, or they need the latest gadgets. And that's not what it is at all. It is a matter of wanting those things. And yeah, I know that I'm going to push some buttons today. This is where that exhortation comes in. But the fact is that a lot of people who think that they need 2 incomes really don't need 2 incomes. It is just that they have become accompanied to living the lifestyle that they've been living. They're comfortable living that way. They're used to having, 2 cars. They're used to having a bigger home. They are used to going on vacations and, just spending a little bit more money than those of us who have learned to just pinch our pennies. And I really do mean pinch our pennies, because here's the thing. I'm a mom of 11, and no, I don't have 11 kids living at home anymore. We have 9 of our children living at home, and my husband is a welder. And yeah, I make a little bit of money here and there from, blogging or here on my channel, but it's really a drop in the bucket. My husband pays for, we're pretty much a 1-income family. And the thing is that it's not easy. It is not easy at all. And I don't ever want to give anybody the illusion that this is just so wonderful and it's so easy to do it. No, you have to make sacrifices. You might have to, shop at a cheaper food place. You might have to just get rid of that one car, sell that one car, and maybe even look into buying a used car outright that you will not have car payments for. You might even need to downsize your home, moving, from a larger home into a smaller home. You might need to forego those fancy vacations that you're used to, or, doing the shopping that you're used to do, or, just any of these other things that we seem to be thinking that we really need these things in our lives, but we don't. What your children need is they need food on the table, they need a roof over their head, they need clothing, and they need parents who are going to do what is the best for them. And I know that it can be hard getting into this mindset when you're so used to just having all these really nice things around the house. But when it comes down to it, what is more important? If you are at a crossroads where your child absolutely has to be homeschooled, or they're going to continue getting bullied, or they're going to have to go against your family's wishes and get vaccinated in order to go to the school, or if they are having lots of medical issues and are missing lots of school, but you still feel like you have to send them to school because you just don't see any other financial way to do it. You can do it. You just have to learn how to be resourceful. You have to learn how to be frugal. And yeah, again, I'm going to say it. It can be a bit of a struggle, but it really is about prioritizing. Now, I will say that there are homeschooling families that do have 2 working parents, and they are just, they're very good at juggling things around. Sometimes the parents might work separate shifts where one parent is home with the kids for part of the day and the other parent is home for the rest of the day. And, there are tons of blogs where the bloggers are writing about working in homeschooling. There are Facebook groups about working in homeschooling. There are lots of different resources that you can find on how people actually juggle this. But the thing is that a lot of times people come out with we can't afford to homeschool, with the financial reason thing right away. And it's because they haven't actually thought about it. Can they really do it? People assume that they can't do it because they are looking at how they are living now. And they're thinking, well, there's no way we could do all these things on one income. Well, you're right. You're not going to be able to do all of those things on one income. I mean, at least if you're having this conversation with yourself, you're not going to be able to do all of those things on one income. But you have to just prioritize and see what it is that is most important to you. Now, another thing that I hear people saying about, well, I can't homeschool because I just don't have enough time. And yeah, we live in a fast-paced world where people are always going. And, you know, they might be volunteering one place, they might be involved in activities other places. But again, it just goes back to that whole prioritizing issue. You have got to remember that your children are your responsibility, and they have to be put above any of the other activities that you might have going on in your life, especially in these dire situations. The next one is that a lot of people think that they wouldn't have patience to homeschool. They could not stand being around their kids for that long. And, you know, at first, when I first started homeschooling, I thought the same thing. I thought, how am I going to be able to handle being around with my kids all day? But the truth is that the more that you're around your kids, the more you get used to it. And this goes back to the whole financial situation, getting used to living on one income or to living on less. But, you know, it isn't as hard as people think that it is. Once you are with your kids all the time, it just becomes a routine. You have to establish that routine, and you can't just jump into something automatically thinking that you can't do it. These are your children. And the reason that you feel that you can't be with them all day is because that is how society has raised the last few generations. It has raised parents to believe that they can't be with their kids all day. So they kind of take them out from underneath their parents' wings and they put them in schools all day. That's why you feel like you can't be with your kids all day, because they have been taken out from under your wing and they have been put in these schools. So yeah, take that time with your kids back. You will get used to it. You will find your family rhythm. You will find your family routine. And after a while, you know, I'm going to say the same thing again as with the finances. It's going to be a struggle. It's not going to be one of those things where everything is always going to be hunky-dory. And once you find your rhythm, that you're never going to have issues and you're never going to lose your patience with your kids. Yes, you're going to lose patience with your kids once in a while. And guess what? They're going to lose their patience with you once in a while. There is no such thing as a perfect homeschool, despite what anyone, what they would like other people on the outside to see. There is no such thing as a perfect homeschool. There is no such thing as a perfect family. So yes, your patience does grow, but if you have this expectation that you have to be absolutely perfect with your kids all the time, that is an unrealistic expectation. All you need to do is just get used to being with your kids, and the more you're with them, it's going to happen. Now, another reason that people think that they just wouldn't be able to homeschool their kids is that they just wouldn't have time to themselves. Like they would just go crazy because they would always have kids around. And again, mom of 11, I hear you. And that can be a tough one. And now a lot of homeschooling moms have come up with ingenious ways of getting time to themselves and being able to just get some time away every once in a while. Because of our situation and having the number of kids that we have, I don't really find that happening in my life as much. Again, I'm going to be completely honest with you. I'm not going to say, oh, I get me time all the time. I don't get me time. Now, when my kids are older, I'm going to have plenty of me time. In fact, when my kids are all grown up, I'm going to miss not having me time. So I am going to embrace this time that I have with my kids now. And again, I'm going to remember that I need to do what my kids need. In the future, you're not going to have to worry about not having me time because your kids are going to be grown up and they're going to be living their own lives. As of right now, though, treasure your kids, enjoy your kids. And yeah, if you can think of ingenious ways to get time to yourself, give me some hints on how to do it. But to me, it's just not worth not homeschooling just because I wouldn't have any time to myself. And one more reason that I'm going to talk about today, people who think that they can't homeschool, is they think that they could never afford the homeschool curriculum. And I know that if you actually, the very first time, it was my oldest son who brought up homeschooling the very first time that we started doing it. And when he told me that he wanted to be homeschooled, my cat is making all kinds of noise. When he told me that he first wanted to be homeschooled, the very first thing that I did was I went online and I Googled homeschool curriculum. And so it took me to like these curriculum websites, and all I saw was really, really expensive curriculum. And you know what? If you are new to homeschooling and if you don't have somebody who's like pretty much showing you the ropes on how to do it, very often that's the first thing that you think of is curriculum. But you know what? Curriculum isn't even the most important part of homeschooling, to be quite honest with you. And that isn't even the first thing that you should even be looking at when it comes to homeschooling. There are so many things that you should be looking into before you ever worry about buying a curriculum. So for those of you who want to know what those steps are, I will link some of those videos in the description box below, because I'm not going to get into that today. But suffice it to say that not all homeschool curriculum is expensive. Some of it is very, very reasonable. And to be quite honest, you can homeschool practically for free. You can use the library, which is where we get a huge amount of our resources in our family, is the library. And yeah, I have videos on how to homeschool with the library, and I will leave that in the description box as well. But on top of the library, if you go online, there are so many free resources to be found, like everywhere. There are free unit studies, free printables. You have Khan Academy, the math website. You have YouTube videos, that show documentaries, or you have like Brave Wilderness. You have Steve Spangler doing science experiments on YouTube. There are so many free resources out there that no one should ever feel like they cannot afford homeschool curriculum. You can afford homeschool curriculum if you can afford free curriculum. And everyone can afford free curriculum unless you don't have the internet or unless you don't have a library. And I would have to say that most people probably do have a library somewhere in the vicinity, and most people do have the internet. And even if they don't have the internet, the library can give you the internet as well. So again, it just goes back to being resourceful, knowing where to find things, and just you always have to go back to your roots and realize why you're doing this. Because if you remember why it is that you're homeschooling your kids, why it is that your family is taking this huge step, it's going to make things easier. It's going to make you more motivated to find those resources. So don't ever underestimate yourself. One other thing that I actually forgot to talk about that I just remembered now, that another reason that a lot of people think that they can't homeschool is because they're not a teacher. And I will tell you that you don't have to be a teacher to homeschool. Our education system as it looks right now has only been that way for like the last 150 years or so. Before that, parents have always been the primary teachers of their students. So this whole idea of a teacher teaching kids and parents being like completely separated from this, that is a new idea. Parents have always been their kids' primary source of education. And if you're thinking about, a teaching degree, I have talked to so many teachers and former teachers who went through school and have the degree, and they have told me, and a lot of them homeschool their own kids now, they tell me that the stuff that they learned in college for becoming teachers is never anything that they have really used in their homeschool. It was about, learning how to do the paperwork. It was learning how to get through the red tape. It was classroom management. And it was all these issues that you just don't have when it comes to educating your own children. And in fact, I have had a lot of teachers who are now homeschooling their kids tell me that they pretty much had to forget everything that they learned about education when it came to homeschooling their kids, because it is a completely different thing. It's I can't even say apples and oranges, because apples and oranges are closer related than a public education and a homeschool setting. So again, you don't have to be a teacher to homeschool your kids. It all goes back to, I'm going to say that again, that's like the key word for this video is resourcefulness. You have to be resourceful. All you need to be able to homeschool your kids, you have to know where to find information, you have to be willing to learn next to them, and you have to be willing to support them in their interests. And there are so many different videos available out there, so many different blogs available out there, so many different books available out there on how to do these things. And none of it ever comes down to the fact that you need to have, an education degree to teach your kids. Never. It never comes down to that. So all you need is just, to love your kids and to be willing to go out on the limb and to help your kids to get the best education that they can have. And, if you're feeling, a little like your self-esteem is a little bit low, a lack of confidence, that's what I'm looking for. If you're feeling a lack of confidence about what you're going to remember or what you're going to be able to help them with, I want you to just really think about that. Because if you went to a public school and if you are having these feelings that you are just inadequate and can't teach your own children, why would you send your kids to the same institution that made you feel inadequate for teaching your own kids? Why would you send them to the same place? So that's really what the gist of this video has been about today, because you know what, at some point you have to learn that homeschooling is about putting your child's needs before your own. It is about sacrifice. It can be scary, but I am telling you what, I didn't want to give homeschooling I didn't want to give it a negative look when I said that sometimes you're forced into it, because homeschooling is not a negative thing. Homeschooling is about freedom, freedom that you will never have if your kids are in a public education system. No matter what reason that you're homeschooling for, your kids will never have the freedom they will get with homeschooling. You as the parent will never have the freedom that you get with homeschooling. So remember that. I know that you can do it, and I hope you have a great day. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed yet and would like to hear more of what I have to say, I would love if you would do that. If you have any questions or comments, you can leave one over on Instagram, because YouTube has disabled my comments. I will leave the link for Instagram in the description box below. And if you like my work and would like to see what rewards I have for my Patreon patrons, I will leave the Patreon link in the description box as well. And I hope you have a great day.